So let's get straight to the chase. Let me share with you a story of how I built my own gym.
First step is to determine what type of workouts you enjoy and need. Based on that, you can go ahead and build out your home gym. For me as a rock climber, a CrossFit rack is pretty much all I need, and in all honesty, I think for many others, a CrossFit rack is the ideal solution for a home gym. The second step is to determine your budget. I wanted to spend as little as possible doing all the work myself. The third step is to find a suitable location for your workout area. It could be inside your house, apartment, garage, or outside in your garden or community space, where I'm sure you can have others pitch in and agree to having a little workout area. I found a small area next to our AC unit, as you can see here, and I first measured it out and then went on to design my CrossFit rack on my computer. I had to work with limited space, so I really thought about each and every single side of the rack, about the proper height and functionality of each leg. I have one side raised higher so I can put gymnastic rings on it. In the end, I was lucky because I found a welder that builds these and he essentially welded the rack for me. Space was not ideal as I first had to remove rocks, vegetation, plants, trees, and I had to work with a water shaft that sits right in the middle of my desired space. Not ideal. I also had sprinkler piping all over that I had to redesign and tuck under the ground. You can see here we had to separate the sprinkler system and redo it, something I did not expect. As I mentioned, I was on a budget, so I did all the work myself, aside of the welding. And I'm thankful for all my family members and friends for giving me a hand, and to YouTube. The next step was to dig out the foundation holes for the rack. Also another tricky step, as there were many tree roots and electrical cables hidden under the ground. I had to watch out not to cut any of those cables, and the ground was also very solid. We made these square forms, wooden molds, so that we could pour the concrete in them later, and so they would hold shape. It was important in this step to make sure all four are level with each other. I think the next time I would rather buy these fixed concrete block molds instead of making my own. As I mentioned, making sure all four block foundations are level with each other was crucial so that your rack sits in water level with the ground. Also, I took into account the little sidewalk and how far I had to go beneath sidewalk level so that when I introduce the floor, it sits flush with the sidewalk. The foundation had to be pretty deep so that I don't rip out the rack out of the ground when I exercise on it. I found the concrete pouring and mixing fun. Concrete was super cheap and fun to pour in. We also put in several steel rods into the concrete to make the foundation stronger. Then it was important to wait several days for the foundation to harden out and settle in. After the foundation settled in, it was time to assemble the rack. This was also a fun and rewarding part of the process, maybe one of my favorite ones. We had many people over that day and they all decided to help. After assembling the rack together, it was time to attach it to the foundation by first drilling holes and then using bolts to attach it. There are two ways to attach it to the foundation. One way is to use regular bolts that you hammer into the hole, and as you screw them in, they expand into the concrete. This is the way we used, but another way you can use is similar, except you use a type of chemical glue in the hole, and then when you hammer in the bolt, the chemical compound expands and holds everything together. The next step for me was to remove additional trees and vegetation to create even more workout space around the rack. Then I went on to purchase the rubber mat floor, and I started preparing the side bumpers and leveling the ground so that I could lay the floor. I ordered a small truckload of sand and small gravel to use for leveling the floor. I spread it all across the workout area and it looked like a Zen garden. I then packed it in so that it got nice and solid and that was ready for the floor. Laying the floor flush with the sidewalk and with each other respectively was not that easy. Also, having to cut the floor and piece the puzzle together was no small task. It took me a couple days. I then decided to take apart the top of the rack and dress each column with a piece of floor by sliding it on from the top. This was the most effective way to cover the whole area around each column, and I used several tools for cutting the floor, all the way from knives to saws, and most of these tools were meant for work with wood, but it worked great on this rubber. One thing I had to do was to cut out a piece of rubber on top of the manhole cover on the water shaft. This was a fun task as it was finally introducing something other than straight lines, and it was tricky to figure out how to most effectively do it. And that's pretty much it. After that, I cleaned up the area. On the left side, you can see I added some rocks and replanted back a tree. It was time to start working out. Yay! The great thing about this rack is that I use it almost all the time. I made myself a commitment that I would use it since I have it, and it has been a blessing, truly. I can work out every muscle group, and everyone in the family loves working out there. I have friends coming over to work out, and we have a nice CrossFit corner with my girlfriend. As a rock climber, I'm now working on other climbing specific additions to the rack, and I'm putting together another video about that. So check it out, and let me know if you enjoyed watching this home gym slash CrossFit rack build. Plus, share with me your home gym projects in the comments below. See you next time.